Welcome to the Movies of the Dam podcast. My name is Kyle Grant, and I'm sitting here as always with my friend and published horror author, John Hunt. If you enjoy what you hear here today, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Instagram and Twitter, at Damn Movies. Email us any questions, comments, and suggestions to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. For further details on John's published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Today, we'll be discussing Christopher Burgart's 2019 film, Witnesses. The film is presented to the viewer in a found footage format as it documents college students Steve and Luke as they create a short movie for the final project of their film studies class. For the final scene of their movie, they decide to shoot it in a seemingly abandoned warehouse. However, they soon realize that the warehouse is actually utilized by the cartel and contains drugs, weapons, hostages, bodies, decapitated heads, and even human trafficking victims. Steve, Luke, and their two cast members, Natalie and Quinn, are then forced to do whatever they can to escape the warehouse with their lives. In the end, only Steve and Natalie escape, killing the cartel boss and his henchmen. Just to let everyone know, this movie came to our attention when writer-director Christopher Burgart reached out to us over Twitter through the account @ArchinFilms. He asked if we would be interested in reviewing the movie, and we told him that we'd love to check it out and give our honest opinion. So that's how we got here today. John, before we get your opening thoughts, here's some feedback from episode 48 on the film Hereditary. Blake, who originally requested it, wrote in over email and said, "Hey, just finished the episode, loved it, and really appreciated you guys' opinions and views in the film. It's easily one of my favorite horror films of all time. One question though, y'all didn't mention Toni Collette's character up in the corner on the ceiling in Peter's room when he woke up at the end. Did y'all not see that? That was the scariest part to me. Thanks again for doing this episode." And Mark Walker wrote to us through Twitter handle @MarkWalker_UK and said, "My favorite fan theory about this movie is the title being a clue, as it sounds like her head hit a tree. Hereditary. Her head hit a tree." So, John, to put you on the spot here, did you see Toni Collette in that scene, or did you know about the fan theory about the title?
Well, this movie tended to have a bunch of ceiling crawlers. So I would like to say that I noticed her on the ceiling, but because I noticed a lot of the characters did end up on the ceiling, like over the person's shoulder. They did a lot of those camera views, but I can't really say for certain that I did. And the fan theory one is like, it's silly, but I don't know. I don't think they actually named the movie for that reason, but
It'd be pretty awesome if they did.
It would be excellent if they did.
And to be completely honest, I kind of missed that. I remember it being a very dark scene, and I just didn't catch it. But you're right, there were a lot of hidden things throughout this movie.
Yeah.
But no, the awesome fan theory, but I think it's just a coincidence that they came up with afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, now on to Witnesses there, John. Opening thoughts?
Yeah, so I liked this film.
Yeah, very good movie.
Yeah, I thought it was very well done. So you look at the premise itself, right? So good group of kids stumble upon something that they shouldn't see, a murder. It reminds me of other films I've seen. So like Judgment Night. Do you remember that movie from back in the day?
No, I don't think I ever saw it. And if I did, it would have been years ago.
Yeah, it was years ago. I think I was in high school when it came out. It had Emilio Estevez and Dennis Leary in it. And their bunch of friends are going to go see a sports game downtown. They take a wrong turn. They end up in the wrong part of town, and they witness Dennis Leary murder someone. And then Dennis Leary and his gang are chasing after these guys for the rest of the film.
Okay,
right?
okay.
So it's kind of the same thing, right? These guys become witnesses to something they shouldn't have seen.
And they didn't mean to see it.
And then they get hunted by these bad guy criminals. So, it's not a truly original theme or an idea. So when that happens, you have to be cognizant of the presentation, right? So I found the presentation in this film was very well done. So I didn't, it wasn't an issue for me. Even though it's we've talked about this before, most story ideas are not 100% original. They're bits and pieces taken from other ones, influence if you had throughout your life. There's all sorts of things that create the story that you put down on paper. But when you do something that has a similar theme to something else, what are you bringing that's new to the table? What is this making it? Why should I watch this? And it's all about the presentation, and I think they did a great job with the presentation.
Yeah, the presentation of this movie was fantastic. And it's even more outstanding in my mind because in watching this movie, and you'll realize it when you see it, I think it was made with a very low budget.
I would say so.
And for a movie that has a low budget to have such a great presentation is just commendable in my mind.
Oh, for sure. When you have a low budget, you are restricted. You're restricted in many ways. You might be restricted in your equipment. You might be restricted in the location. You might be restricted in hiring the professionals to do the special effects on scene, or even the CGI or whatever it is that you're doing. Like, you are completely restricted. You're stripped down to bare bones. And so what you have to do is capitalize or just try to maybe take advantage of what you do have at your disposal, which is just a camera and some good actors.
No, yeah, and they did just that.
Yeah.
In this movie, we didn't know what to expect. So through doing this podcast, we've been reached out to several times from different filmmakers or distribution production companies just asking us to review these independent films. And you never know what you're going to get.
For sure.
Some of them are outstanding, and some of them would be closer to the opposite end of that. One movie that really sticks in my mind that was really, really good was Butterfly Kisses.
Yeah.
Outstanding film, and we would have never seen it if writer-director Eric Christopher Myers hadn't have reached out to us with that one.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, we always kind of go into these movies not knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
And I can only echo your words from before that this was a really great film. I'm very glad that Christopher Burgart reached out to us because this was a lot of fun. And it really started off from the opening scene. This was one of those opening scenes that really grabbed my attention right away.
Yeah.
So kind of with that police officer talking and the news coverage and then that chilling 911 call.
For sure.
One small criticism though, and no matter what the movie is, I'm always going to have some issue.
We always will.
Yeah. I found the police officer a little difficult to understand. Now I understand that they were trying to do the thing where like they were trying to hide his appearance and make his voice muffled, but it almost came across like it was just tough for me to make out exactly what was being said.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I know there's different variations. You could not variations, or I guess
like voice modifiers.
Yeah, voice modifiers you could use. Like in Scream, they used a voice modifier, right?
Yeah,
and you could understand them. And in other movies where you see they try to disguise the voice, you can understand them, right? So there are out there where there are better ones that could use, and maybe they used the wrong pitch, I would say. That made it hard to understand.
So did you have that same issue where it was difficult or not? Am I making something out of nothing here?
Well, I didn't have a problem understanding him, really. It wasn't a problem for me. He was an ATF agent, though. I'm pretty sure he was an ATF agent.
Oh, okay.
And that was distracted by, because they pixelated his face, but I could see his profile on the computer screens beside him. So I was distracted.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I was distracted by, oh, look, I can see him.
Oh, man.
But, it's just truly small things. Like, it's not, none of that. There's nothing in here where it was a deal breaker, right? So you were watching a film. I never looked at my watch.
No, I was interested the entire time.
I never paused the film to see how much more time I had left. I never did any of those things.
Yeah.
You know what that means? That means I'm interested, I'm watching, and I care what's happening on the screen. And that's a great indication of a movie that was well put together.
Very well put together, and I can only imagine what Christopher could do with a bigger budget.
Yeah, for sure.
He could do something truly outstanding.
Yeah.
But again, going back to one of my issues, one of my big issues with the film kind of came right at the end of that opening hook where kind of some writing popped up on the screen. And here's what it says, John, just to jog your memory. In 2018, 4 college students set out to make a short film for a class assignment. What they recorded got them killed. This is their footage. So right away when I saw that, I was upset because I'm like, oh, now we know they all die.
Yes.
So now it's just the ending has been ruined, and it's just a matter of time until they get killed. And so that kind of obviously upset me a little bit. But then, as I just said, I enjoyed this entire movie, and I was into it. But I'm just like, why did they have to say that? Why couldn't they just leave it up to my imagination whether everyone dies or not? But then in the end, not everyone does die. So it kind of lowered my expectation, and then I was surprised at the end that someone survived. Like, is that a fair trick, or is that kind of like pulling the rug out from under you?
Well, the way that was written, you think everyone's dead.
What they recorded got them killed.
Yeah. right? So
Could you say got some of them killed?
yeah, and you wouldn't even say what they recorded. So let's look at it. Who was actually directing? Who was filming?
Yeah, so it would be the two main characters were kind of the filmmakers, right?
Yeah, Luke and Steve,
Luke
right?
and Steve, yeah.
Yeah, so Steve didn't die. Luke did. So even that's inaccurate because if he was recording and he didn't get him killed,
Yeah.
he's still alive. So that's inaccurate.
And then technically in that last warehouse scene, they were all recording.
Yes, to a certain degree, but
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things, and they all didn't die.
And maybe you could get away with it if maybe you killed the two filmmakers, but maybe one of the actors got away or something like
Yeah.
that. Then it'd be like, oh yeah, so I guess the actors technically aren't recording, right? But
Mhm.
it bugged me because I thought it gave away the ending, and then at the end I felt a little bit like the rug was pulled out from under me. Did you
Yeah.
have those feelings or no?
I didn't have a problem with it. Like I wasn't really distracted by that. Like, because that was written at the very beginning, and at the end, I thought everyone was going to be dead, and they weren't dead. So I was a little like, okay, that's weird, because I thought when he threw the gas on them that they were going to be lit on fire. Like, I thought these guys were going to die horribly, and I was like, man,
You're just waiting for it.
Yeah, these guys went through a lot, and this is a terrible way to end their life because burning alive's horrible. But I thought they were going to die. And
Yeah.
when they didn't die, I was happy because you like the hero
I
to come on
got
top.
invested in those characters, and
Yeah.
I'm glad they survived.
Absolutely, but at the same time, from that opening, that's very misleading.
There's no way you could have predicted it.
No, you are actually predicting that they would all die,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
From that
you-
opening,
you have to based
Yeah.
on the opening.
yeah. So that's the issue there. So remember we were talking about being cheated before.
Yeah.
I would say that's close to being pretty cheated. But the only problem, the reason why it didn't impact you as much is because it was at the very beginning they have those lines, and then you like the characters, you're following the film.
You
and
kind of forget about it.
Yeah, and then at the very end, you're happy that they're alive, so you kind of forgive that cheat.
Because you like them.
Yeah, but it is a cheat.
And so that just shows how well written it was,
Yeah.
right? So if you hadn't have liked these characters, then maybe you would be just furious with the way it went.
Yeah, because from the beginning there's no way you could have predicted anyone lived. No
Yeah.
way.
No, fair enough. And so kind of after that opening hook is done and then they have the writing on the screen, we can kind of then flip towards the found footage, and it's a documentary of Steve and Luke kind of putting this film together.
Yes.
And I will say that the back and forth between Steve and Luke was quite vulgar at times, but it had me smiling, it had me laughing, it felt authentic.
Yeah,
It felt the way that two college boys would talk to each other.
I thought they were very genuine as well.
And it felt like these actors were so good. It felt like they had been friends for years.
Yes. Yeah. The way they picked at each other, it's like just the way that it was, right? The way you get annoyed, irritated by only your closest friend and you still tolerate them, it was still there.
That's what it felt like,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you kind of had the cool guy like Jock, and then maybe more of like the nerdier
Serious guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? And just how they played off each other, and
Yeah.
it just like some of the stuff they were saying was ridiculous, but I was chuckling a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And then it kind of shows them kind of putting the movie together and getting it going, and I absolutely loved that scene where they were auditioning the different actresses.
Yes.
I thought that was so funny, just like with them, like it's kind of presented to the viewer and just like they're reading the same line over and over again, but with different actresses, and some of them were doing such a horrific job, and it was so awkward, it was hilarious.
Yes.
And like, what a great way to like get your friends in a movie, because
Yes.
you can have friends who aren't actors and put them in there, and it just works perfectly for
Yeah,
that
because
scene.
they're supposed to be awkward. It's supposed to be weird. But I thought that was also weird because this is supposed to be like found footage, right? And
Well, maybe that was the first clue that the survivors edited it together.
yeah, I guess so. I don't even know, but I don't know because I don't think they'd want anything to do with it after
No,
that.
yeah, you wouldn't want to edit together footage of your friends dying. That I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So it's just more. I just thought it was odd because they went from different character to different character to different character, and then back to that other character. So they clearly cut it and edited it
Yeah.
during that time. So it wasn't completely found footage, but once again,
Still worked.
it was enjoyable.
Yes.
So you forgave a lot, right?
And I think the word you just used there is important. This was a very enjoyable movie.
For sure. For sure.
And then from that scene, not only was that scene funny, enjoyable with the actresses reading, but they were actually reading a part in the movie that ended up being important for later in the film.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember that, but they were talking about the girl who was being stalked in the movie they were making, and how she was pulling out a can of whatever it was, bear spray or pepper spray or whatever.
Yeah, it was some sort of spray.
But then her having that bear spray or pepper spray actually came important later on in this film when they're kind of escaping from like the guard dogs.
Yes.
And I thought that was really cool, that it was kind of subtly brought up through this kind of funny part of auditioning, but then it came important later, where I would have felt pretty cheated if she just so happened to have had bear spray with her when the dog came.
If there's no explanation for her to have that on her, then yeah, you would have been.
But just a clever link,
yeah,
right?
it was just a good way to put it in there.
And it was just showing like there wasn't wasted writing in this.
No.
Like kind of, and that's important for a good movie, a good presentation, that like kind of everything that happens throughout the story is important and is there for a reason.
Yeah, it needs to flow, and it needs to serve a purpose. Whatever you're doing needs to serve a purpose. So if it's to serve a purpose of misleading, that's fine. If it serves a purpose of progressing the story forward, that's fine, but it has to serve a purpose. Fluff for the sake of fluff is not enjoyable to watch, and you don't want to watch it, and you want to look at your watch, and you want to pause to see how much time is left, right?
Yeah.
So, and I never once did that in this film, like, once again. So it's just like, you gotta look at it from that standpoint, and a lot of attention and detail that they had, like, in this film, like, they were spot on. Remember that part where they were in the room there while the one guy, Steve, is writing the script out?
Yes.
And his friend's sitting there beside him, just like, hey, man, hurry up, or here, eat this, or eat this.
Like usual, Steve's doing all the work, and Luke is just clowning around, basically.
Yeah, right? So, like, there's a clock over their shoulder, and it showed the time, and then the camera would stop, and it would pick up back up again, and the time would be consistent with what happened. So Luke would be, yeah, I'll go get us a coffee or get us something to eat. And he was gone for 20 minutes, and it would show that on the clock. So they paid attention to the small stuff, and that's very, very key, because like only nerds like me kind of watch that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone does, but like when I see that, I'm like, oh, I like that, because it to me it seems like, okay, these guys care about their audience, they care about their product, they don't want to put product out there and treat their audience like, you know, they can slip anything by them. And I like that. I like that they took the care to make sure that it was accurate.
No, you're 100% right.
And it goes a long way towards watching the film and later on, right? Because that would have bothered me. It
maybe would have pulled you out of your viewing experience, right? But no, it's important to look at those little details as you're going through.
Yes.
Now, my question for you, because obviously they get their film together and they start filming, and then for the last scene, they go to this abandoned warehouse,
which is off campus and breaking one of the rules of their project.
And that was going to be my question to you. So we always come back to this, the stupid decision. How did you feel? Where do your thoughts are on the stupid decision to go to the off campus to break the rule and to go to this abandoned warehouse? Did you think it was realistic? Did you think it was that dumb decision, or could you see a reasonable, these characters, these four reasonable characters doing this?
I didn't have a problem buying into that, because Luke he was shown throughout the whole film as being that manipulative. I'll do whatever it takes to make my life better or make things go more smooth for me. I'll lie. I'll do whatever I need to get done in order for things to work out for me.
Because he definitely did withhold the truth.
Absolutely, he did withhold. He wasn't telling whole truths.
He talked about something like, oh, this is technically campus. It's like the university owns it. Or
the university owns this property. This is fine. We're well within the rules. Blah, 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 blah. Complete lie. And so I didn't have a problem with that buy-in. And he also knew that he needed a good area to film this film. So they picked that warehouse, an abandoned area, for that reason, which to me seems, a realistic thing to do. Do you want to find a good setting for your movie? So, yeah, I had no issues with any decision-making process there. And once again, like normally, like in any type of thriller or horror movie, when you break the rules, that's when the bad things happen to you. So it's also a tool to use in order to have that happen, right?
Yeah.
So if they don't break this rule, the bad thing won't happen.
Yeah, it's like it's not fair that they get in danger then at that point, right?
Right.
And he kind of led them astray, obviously, as we just mentioned, lying to them about, oh, the university does own this, and then they get all the way out there, and then it comes out, oh, well, actually, like, this is a an abandoned warehouse that my mom, who's a real estate agent, is trying to sell. And look, I have a key. No one's going to be in there. No big deal, right? So it's just
Yeah.
kind of, and then the key doesn't work. Oh, we might as well go through the window. So then it's just kind of like slowly, like one small step after another down this dangerous path instead of like forcing them to take a giant leap from the beginning, right?
Yes, and that's what he does. He's that savvy manipulator, right? So he always talks about being with women, and you could see throughout the whole movie he's kind of the creepy stalker that they're writing about, but not really a murderous stalker, just kind of like that that perv that we all kind of know, but seems to be charming and women seem to like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but he's always not.
But
really,
a bit of a jerk.
but a complete jerk, right? It's not. He doesn't see women as people. They are objects to him, right? So, and for whatever reason, he's successful in manipulating others to his ends. So that's what he does, and that's what you see him
And
as.
that's how we got them there. And then they kind
Yeah.
of arrive, and you find out later he has the address wrong, and so
Mhm.
that's why the key isn't working in the door. And then I don't know if you remember this, but I literally laughed out loud. So when the one actor Quinn, who I thought was a great character, by the way,
Yeah,
he
he was really good, man.
really funny, and this made me laugh so hard. So he ends up drop kicking the door,
Yeah.
and it doesn't even come close to working. And then he turns towards the camera and said, "Did I look like Bruce Lee?" But he's like dead serious at that point, right?
Yeah.
And then they kind of go in and they get scared by this guard dog that comes later.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of a rat that runs across the ground in the factory,
Mm-hmm.
and there's the line, "First the dog, then the rat. Can we cool it with the jump scares?" And I just thought that was so clever, right? Because that speaks to so many movies that just like might not have good substance in their script and just lean so much on jump scares.
Yeah.
Where it was almost they were just commenting on that and just being like, "Let's get back to the substance here. We don't need these jump scares in our movie."
Yeah, so it kind of had like a Scream element to it there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
we're gonna use the devices that they use in horror movies, but we're also gonna acknowledge that we notice them, right?
Yeah.
So I agree, that was a very clever way to do it.
And how funny was that interview with Quinn earlier on when they were kind of, I think they were behind schedule a little bit because they were waiting for Natalie to show up.
Yeah.
And he's like, "So, why did you audition for the movie?" And it was just like the funniest interview. He's like, "Well, like there was these like hot girls there, so I wanted to
Standing
like,
in a line.
yeah, I just thought I'd go over and talk to them, and then I got cast in the movie." And he's like, "You can't say that." Like, I thought that was pretty funny.
No, that
right?
was really good. And
And he was just a great overall character. And honestly, I was kind of rooting for him a little bit too. So
I
I was
was,
sad.
yeah.
I was sad he died.
yeah, but like the classic funny stoner always dies,
Oh yeah.
right?
It's just one of those cliche
Yeah.
things, right?
Yeah.
And so then we're kind of in the warehouse, and they realize that they shouldn't be there. That it's actually this cartel like safe spot or safe house or whatever.
yeah.
And they witness the murder, and then everything starts. And I thought that it was really cool that when they were kind of in the warehouse, the camera angles would switch back and forth between their cameras and kind of the surveillance cameras that the cartel had set up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when it was so when their cameras were going, there was sound, and then it would just quickly switch to one of the surveillance cameras, and there wouldn't be any audio. I just thought that was kind of a cool effect going forward.
Yeah, and what I really liked was the chest cameras that they had, right?
Yeah.
That provided a really good angle, and they wrote it into the film as well, right? He got these really expensive cameras, and they didn't show them to anyone. They were kind of secretive until they brought them out. So, and then they get used within the movie to show a different angle of how scared these people are when they're being chased and everything, different view of what's going on. I thought with the found footage theme that this movie was presenting, they were able to incorporate other camera angles into it, which is not normally the case, and it was done in a clever way. I enjoyed that.
No, very, very clever. And then it was kind of interesting as they were kind of being chased through the warehouse there. They were kind of stumbling upon different things like drugs, and then the cell that was kind of like a human trafficking type ring. Like they were prisoners of human trafficking. What did you think about that? Was that needed in the movie?
So they mentioned it at the beginning.
With kind of the newscasts, right?
Yeah, the tunnels underneath and all the people dead in the warehouse. They mentioned at the beginning, and that tunnel was supposed to be a direct run into Mexico. So I think they had to show it, and also showed what it did. What it portrayed is that it heightened the tension in my mind, anyways. So I think it was, she goes down there and she's trying to find a way out, and she stumbles on these other people that are in there and they're trapped and they're not going anywhere. So what does that make her feel like? She's trapped and she's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And then the bad guy shows up behind her, and then she's on the run again, right? So I thought it was a good way. They couldn't not show it or do anything with it once they mentioned it at the beginning. So it had to be in there. So if they didn't mention it at the beginning, we didn't need it. But once
it kind of ties things together.
Yeah,
right?
but once they did, you had to.
And again, they're showing everything for a reason.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you kind of forget about those opening newscasts at the beginning. And then when it happens, then you kind of like jolt your memory like, oh, yeah, I remember that from the start.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe it doesn't even really jolt your memory. It just makes sense because you were already given that piece of information.
No, fair
right?
enough.
So you might not even be thinking about it. You're just like, okay, well, it doesn't surprise you because you've already been told about it.
Yeah.
Right? So you just kind of go with the flow.
And then my other question for you is so kind of when they stumble upon the murder, there's kind of the cartel boss and his henchman. And his henchman, after kind of one of the kills, grabs the stalker mask that they were using in the movie and then proceeds to wear it for the rest of the hunt. What did you think about that? Like, it obviously made for like a scary visual and very, very creepy because he was kind of like Michael Myers-esque, where like he wasn't in a hurry to get anywhere, kind of like walking around. But I'm like, really? Like, would he wear that? Would he want to affect his vision?
Well, see, I didn't have a problem with that. I thought it was actually pretty fun. So,
oh, definitely fun.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in the way that so they brought this mask to this place to do this film about a stalker, and they all have cameras. They're all filming. The place is being filmed, and it turns out that there is a murderous person there, and that he's going to use the mask that was intended for the initial filming. So I thought it was actually a fun thing to do for the director and for the film itself. But as would I think the character would do it, I don't know what a homicidal Mexican or any type of
henchman,
any henchman of any nationality that would do or wouldn't do.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. Maybe he felt like he was in no danger whatsoever. Like,
well, he didn't think that they could escape. The place was locked up. He didn't think they could get out. So I have no problem with him.
He knew the place.
Around.
They didn't know it.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not mess with him a little bit? Because he's obviously this sadistic like serial killer or like hitman type of thing.
Or just or not even a hitman, just a henchman that kills people, right?
Yeah.
Just like the heavy that follows the boss around. Like, who knows, right? Well, I don't know. So I can't really comment on that because I don't really have knowledge of those people.
No, fair enough. So this was a good movie. I really enjoyed it. John, it sounds like you did too. It hasn't, as of the recording of this podcast, it hasn't been released yet. It's being released on September 9th on a bunch of different streaming services: iTunes, Amazon Video, Google Play, Vudu, YouTube. So check it out. It is worth the watch. I don't have anything for you from Rotten Tomatoes since it hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
Don't really have any info on the budget or the box office or anything like that.
Okay, wait. These are all good things. I always like to end on a positive note. So I just wanted to say something that bothered me though.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they come across the guy that they're about to kill, like the witness or the crown. What is he? The prosecutor?
Yeah, I think he's a prosecutor if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So they're about to kill the prosecutor of this case, and they're all in there and they see this thing going down. The one guy, Steve, is like, has a camera in his hand and he's filming it. I was like, you're about to witness a murder. You don't want a camera coming out of a corner where they could, look over and see it there. You don't want you to be actually seen. So, because if they can see you, if you can see them, they can see you. If your camera can see them, then they can see you, right? So I had a problem with him, like, even having that camera in his hand and recording. I know they had to for the purpose of the film, but I think that character, because they're using the camera angles from inside the warehouse and the chest ones, there's other ways to do this. I think it would have been better for him to put that camera down and look for a weapon, because I'd rather have a weapon in my hand than that camera.
No, and that makes sense, and I completely hear what you're saying, that like something terrible is happening, like let's not bring any more attention to ourselves. But maybe it was like a deer caught in headlights thing, like he was filming kind of before the event happened, and so he just continued to film, right? Like he was almost like frozen a little bit.
Well, he was moving around and trying to get better angles, and he was like looking at the camera, like fidgeting. He wasn't frozen, man. He knew what he was doing. He was trying to capture it on film, and I thought that was a terrible idea because you knew what was going to happen. Even if you didn't know, some guy strapped to a chair and one guy waving a gun around.
Yeah.
You don't want anyone to see you.
No, exactly, right? Because you know that at that point you're at the very least sitting next to him in another chair, right?
Yeah.
No, and that makes complete sense.
But once again, that didn't take away anything from the film for me.
No, this
It was
was
just like a minuscule thing where I was like watching it and I might have raised my eyebrows going, really, dude? Not a good idea. But that's about it.
yeah, and
you know?
fair enough, right? And not everyone's going to make great decisions throughout the entire movie, but overall this was outstanding. Couple cool things that I kind of found out online when looking into this movie. Witnesses was the last production to film at the Firestone Tire Factory in Southgate, Los Angeles. And this was the same location for the Netflix film Bright with Will Smith and Joel Edgerton, the TV series SWAT, and the This Is America music video by Childish Gambino. So I thought that was kind of a cool fact.
That's cool.
And then as well, I guess Christopher Burgart is a big Stanley Kubrick fan, because there was a lot of nods to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining throughout the film, including a picture of Wendy Torrance, Shelley Duvall on Steve's bedside table, a clock reading 2:37 in the study lounge, and a scene with the green bathroom. And I guess these things were all done as kind of a shout out to Kubrick and a shout out to the film, because obviously Christopher Burgart loves it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's cool that you kind of pay homage to somebody who maybe inspired you, that you really look up to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it wasn't like these things were rip-offs or anything like that. They were just
No,
literally
not even close. Like,
shutouts.
it's one of those things where if you have to know that director like Stanley Kubrick to pick up on that stuff, right?
And
'Cause it's
I didn't pick up on it.
I didn't pick up on it because it's not in your face. It's like small things that are in the background. So that's tastefully done, in my opinion.
Yeah, very cool. Very good movie. Really looking forward to see what Christopher Burgart does next. Take the time to check out this film. As John said earlier, very enjoyable.
For sure. It's worth your time. Absolutely worth your time.
Well, buddy, anything else to add?
Nope.
Well, folks, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Twitter and Instagram @DamnMovies. We want to hear what you thought of today's podcast and any suggestions you have, especially in terms of what movies you'd like us to discuss next. Send us an email to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. Please also check out John's full-length novels. His first two novels, Dollhouse and The Tracker, are Amazon bestsellers, and his novella Balance is also available on Amazon. You can pre-order John's newest full-length novel, Off the Grid, right now at blackrosewriting.com. For further details on John's other published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week, and be kind to everyone.